okay, I'm going to go clean the house. I'm really working. It doesn't even have to be stressed, but I'm just doing something at a good pace or get something done. It's like it drains me. It's a mental stress. And the only thing that I've come up with is the breathing. Is there anything else that you can have advice to as to how to counter that? It's just in every day when I start doing anything that's actually productive. Does that make sense? That I'm not relaxing, that adrenaline or cortisol or something rises up, and there's not even a major stressor there.
On the Choose to Think podcast, I will encourage and empower you to engage and optimize your best thought life in practical, meaningful ways so that you can live day by day in joy, peace, and God's purpose despite all externals. This is Victoria, and welcome back to the Choose to Think podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Hey there, Brain Changer. Now, before we get started, just 4 quick items. Number 1, I have a gift for every single listener, and this is how you can get it. If you haven't already, would you take about 2 minutes to rate and write a review for the show on Apple Podcasts? This would really help us to get the word out about the show so that more folks can find us. If you don't use Apple Podcasts, please simply make a favorite or follow wherever you listen, and then share your favorite episode link on social media, tagging me when you do. And if you do either of these tasks, I want to know. Please DM me on Facebook or send me an email to choosetothink@gmail.com with your U.S. mailing address, and I will send you a small token of my appreciation. It's 2 custom designed premium stickers from Chris Beth's World to remind you to keep living your best thought life. Number 2, be sure to check the show notes for the link to purchase your very own theme-based t-shirts based on podcast episodes. There are nearly 100 designs waiting for you over on the Choose to Think Merch and More store. Come visit us today and snag a t-shirt to give as a gift for that special someone. Number 3, you may not be aware of the time commitment involved in podcast production. For listeners, it is free content. Each week, I invest about 10 hours on the show doing my very best to put out quality work and to provide value, inspiration, and a whole lot of practical tips and tricks to encourage you in your Christian journey. Now, I'm on the lookout for small businesses or corporate sponsors for this show. If you own a small business or if you know of a local company who would be willing to sponsor an episode or 2, would you please contact me directly? I have a special media kit that I would like to send that particular business or corporation, and I would really appreciate your support. And number 4, finally, I also create for you special cheat sheets, worksheets, and downloadables available on my website, and they're all free. Head on over to victoriadwalker.com to opt in. Okay, and now on with the show. Thank you for being here. Today's bonus episode was recorded from Clubhouse, the drop-in audio chat app that you can get on your cell phone. Special guests today include Jace Kraft and Martha Bryant. Our topic is about healthy stress, and you're thinking, wait, how can stress ever be healthy? Well, turns out it can. Now, part of our conversation is based on Dr. Caroline Leaf's book, Think, Learn, Succeed. And in this episode, we're going to cover a whole lot of ground, including how perspective is everything. You have to reframe how you see stress. You can choose to make stress work for you, not against you, just by reframing your thoughts to emphasize that you can do what's in front of you, not that you can't. You can always ask for help. You can actually enhance your productivity by remembering the healthy benefits of stress, like clarity of mind and increased blood flow to your brain. Remember that fun or excitement and stress in your body are actually peas in a pod. So let's flip it and make stress work for us. You can even write down the benefits of stress, practice breathing techniques, focus on being present during challenging activities, set your hard tasks to music. And again, I just want to emphasize, watch your thoughts. Now, I do have an affirmations template available for you to create your own daily affirmations. I'll get you started and you just have to fill in the blank. So be sure to download your free one-page PDF today. The link is in the show notes. Alrighty, let's go. The healthy stress mindset. That's the topic for today. And it almost seems counterintuitive. We think, okay, who says stress could ever be healthy? But truly it can be. And a lot of it depends on our actual perspective and how we come at stress, how we deal with stress, how we view stress. And I can tell you just right out of the gate that I can be the person who says, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed. I'm so overwhelmed. I just can't do this. This is stressing me out. And those kinds of comments can get going. Those thoughts can really get going in my head. And before I know it, truly, if I say I'm stressed, I will be. And I'm coming at stress when I do that in a way that doesn't actually help me or serve me very well. I think it's probably a fairly common thought to have, like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed. I'll never get this done. I've got so much to do. My to-do list is a mile long. I don't have the time. I want to do this, and I'm pulled in this direction and that direction, and then I'm serving here and serving there, and I've got papers to grade and my doggy to feed, and just so many things that kind of come upon us. And it's easy to begin really feeling overwhelmed. And some people actually even live in a chronic state of stress. So they've just got cortisol, the stress hormone, just riddling through their system almost constantly. And it's so unhealthy. So I actually got the healthy stress mindset from a Dr. Caroline Leaf book called Think, Learn, Succeed. And she goes through several different mindsets, and we've been using that as a basis for our chats. And she actually encourages her readers to rethink the whole notion of being stressed, and instead to try to make a conscious decision or choice to make stress work for you instead of against you, even physically. And she says, picture what can be happening in your brain. And I'm going to read just a little bit from her book here. I'm quoting now. It says, if you face a difficult situation with a glass half full attitude, the blood vessels around your heart dilate. Increased blood flow results in increased oxygen flowing to your brain, which in turn increases your cognitive fluency and clarity of thought. That is, your ability to not only face a challenge, but overcome it. This increased blood flow also balances the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, allowing a number of neurophysiological and genetic processes to work for you, fueling intellectual growth. A genetic switch will be turned on inside the hippocampus of your brain, which strengthens your body, allowing you to cope in a difficult situation. Many neurophysiological responses will be activated, allowing you to stay strong amid adversity. But if you see the glass as half empty, the opposite will happen, and stress will work against you. And that's the end of that quote. So today, I just wanted to see what you all thought, what your perspective is really on stress. And because I'm in the Choose to Think business, I love to dissect our thoughts. I love to reframe our thoughts. The Bible tells us to take our thoughts captive. And when we do that, we get the opportunity to really think about what we're thinking about, analyze those thoughts, and then we can ask ourselves, okay, is this what God says about me? Is this what he says about himself? And is this what he says about our situation? And from that vantage point, we can then either accept the thought that we're having or reject it as an untruth, or perhaps it's a lie, or it's something that's toxic. And from there, we can replace it with what would be the truth. And I know this sounds really kind of lofty, but if we pull it back into even our attitude about stress and the thoughts that we have surrounding those times when we feel stressed, if we're careful and if we're determined, we can actually take hold of those thoughts that are doing nothing but stressing us more, really, and push back against them a little bit, replace them with other thoughts, or even the image that, wow, when I'm feeling stressed, I've got the opportunity for increased oxygen and blood flow, and that in turn can work in my favor and give me greater focus and greater clarity of thought. Even that simple reframe can almost energize us and allow us to say, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath here and I'm going to push forward. So our thoughts that we have even centered around stress can either enhance the situation in a positive way, or it can cause it to almost be debilitating, and we can even feel paralyzed by the stress that we may be facing. So let me just stop there and invite your feedback. I'll start with you, Martha, about the thoughts that you have centered around stress, and what are they? Maybe you can identify a couple of thoughts that you say, and then second to that, how would reframing that serve you or help you, or do you think it might?
Thank you. I think one of the reasons that I'm even thinking more about this or whatever is I have twins that are 17, and they've had some real issues. And so we've went through some major stressors with them. And so I almost think I have PTSD. And then, so they are doing somewhat better right now, but I'm always thinking, what if, and how they could go downhill, And I'm trying to think more positively and speak words of affirmation that they're going to be fine. They're going to be successful. They're going to make good choices. And I listen to, I don't know, I know you said you do a Christian podcast. I listen to Andrew Womack a lot, and I don't know if you know or familiar with his messages, but he was really talking about what you speak. Words are important, and don't speak anything negative. Even if it comes into your mind, don't speak it out loud, or don't, and then if you are thinking it, change it. And so that's what I'm trying to do, and that's why I was looking for you, is I just need to be in that frame of mind that I can, when those negative thoughts come in, I switch it to something positive.
Thank you for that. That is a beautiful picture of the power that we actually have right at our fingertips. It does take discipline. We do have to be deliberate about reversing our thoughts, just like you said, and switching those back, being mindful of the words that we speak. Also, you mentioned thoughts that center around what if, or all the thoughts that lead us almost on a runaway train. The what if scenarios can cause a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety and a lot of worry. And sometimes to combat that, I make a what I can control list and a what I cannot control list. And suddenly when I get it down on paper and I say, oh my goodness, I'm spending so much emotional energy focused on all these what if scenarios, all these, things I absolutely cannot control. So it gives me a heads up to say, nope, I'm not going there anymore. I'm gonna only focus on the things that I can control, those things that I can do. And in your case, for example, what can I do to show love and support for my children, for my teenagers? How can I connect with their hearts? Okay, maybe I can invite them on a date night, or maybe I can surprise them with their favorite dessert, or maybe I can have prayer with them, or a moment, let's go for a walk, or maybe they like to ride bikes. Okay, I'll go ride bikes with them, or play video games. Okay, I'll do that. Find those moments to connect with their heart. Those are things that certainly you can control to some extent. I mean, they might just say, no thanks, Mom. But still, you could at least assert yourself in that area. And that, I have found personally, has been time really, really well spent and energy well spent. So I also think you nailed it, Martha, when you said the power of our words are so powerful. And matter of fact, the Bible says that we have life and death. There's life and death in the power of our tongues and the words. They're not just floating things out in space. They actually have energy and vibration, and they matter. And so the wisdom to be able to mark our words and to not say something that we could kind of hold on to, the wisdom in doing that, I found that so difficult. I love this scripture that says, God, please put a sentinel at my mouth, or a guard at my mouth, because I need, like, as a matter of fact, I have this visual image of a whole bunch of those little tiny plastic soldiers, those little green soldiers, like taped on my mouth, because I don't want anything to slip out of there, because a negative word is like times 5 impact, and versus say a positive one. And it actually, I think it's even more than that. And the impact even on our listener is, it penetrates, and we have this little bias to focus on those negative things that people say to us. And so it even takes several, like I want to say 3 to 5 positives to counteract a single negative even. So, you've hit some things that will help us develop a new system for handling stress, because there are so many externals we cannot control in life. There are some that we can, and that's where we want to spend our time and our energy. And worry is a dead-end street. All the what ifs, dead end. Negative thoughts, speaking, that toxicity that we kind of get in that funk and get wrapped up in that, and all of that is really an emotional drainer also. Plus, it doesn't help anyone who happens to hear what we may say. So changing that, taking those thoughts captive, replacing them with words of positive affirmation, encouragement, really, really do make a difference. So thank you so much for sharing that. And Jace, I'm going to go to you to see if you have any feedback here.
Well, one thing, so I come from the athletic world, and we talk to athletes all the time about the nerves before your race, because that, especially for a freshman coming into college, it's on a new stage and whatnot. So that can have a big impact on your race, depending on how you look at those nerves, the butterflies beforehand. So most of the people will say, like, there's so much pressure, and that, like, it's kind of a negative thing, and try to avoid the nerves. But actually, that gives you the adrenaline to race and to compete well. Those nerves do. So they're actually a good thing, and they're needed for peak performance. So when we reframe it to excitement rather than nervousness, then people or athletes tend to have a better race and are kind of out of their head then, and can compete well with their body.
I've heard that, like stage fright and those sorts of things, like you said, it's really, it's very similar to what the feelings we have when we do something positive, or when we win the race. All of that is intricately woven. It's very, very similar as far as the chemicals, the hormones, everything that's going on in our system. But yet we look at it differently. And so some of it, and a good portion of what Caroline Leaf talks about in this chapter, is about our perspective about stress. And so that's a great illustration to indicate, wait a minute, the what's actually going on inside the body is very similar in either scenario, a good one or a not so good one that causes kind of, makes you feel anxious or makes you feel joyful. They're very similar. So let's just turn that to, hey, I get this opportunity to perform. I get this opportunity to speak. Well, actually, let me ask you, Jace, what would be the thoughts that you would encourage your athletes to say to themselves instead of having those thoughts like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous, or I'm so scared I can't do this? What are maybe 3 or 4 thoughts they could say instead to encourage themselves?
It kind of goes personal to the person that's competing. It's kind of why they're competing. So some people compete because they love the competition. Some people compete because they love the sport. Those kinds of things. But in general, kind of an overarching theme is we reframe it towards excitement. So then excitement's like, it explains all the symptoms of nervousness, because you get the same symptoms while you're excited, and it gives you that mental edge of where, hey, I'm like primed and ready to go. Because when you're excited about something, you're like all into it, right? You're consumed by it, and that's kind of the biggest mind shift is to excitement. And I would say there's kind of different forms of excitement depending on what excites you about that, but overall it's excitement, and it's something that everybody knows. I mean, everybody's been excited, so it's not hard to like, oh yeah, this is familiar to me because I've been excited before, and this is how I felt. It's the same, but it's just reframing that to make sure that you do feel that. So
I want to read just a teeny bit more. She gives some healthy stress mindset activation tips, and she has 5 of them, and maybe we could even roll these over just very quickly. But she encourages us to see, number 1, see stress as something that enhances rather than diminishes our performance. And that's where I was talking about earlier, where this is one of the aspects physiologically what's happening in our bodies when we're stressed. We actually have greater blood flow, more oxygen, and those can actually be good things working in our favor and can help us to develop that mental focus and have clarity. So we kind of can start seeing it in that way. In other words, welcome it. So we get up in the morning, we're like, oh my goodness, my get-to-do list is really long. Okay, I'm starting to feel it. Like, how am I going to get all this done? Well, I know now, okay, this is what's happening, and I'm going to really come at this, and maybe I'm going to do some other skills that I know, like time blocking, and I can look back historically and say, well, I've done it before, I can do it again, and I can pray, God, can you help me through this? But it's just that setting a different tone even about coming at otherwise stressful situations or days that we may have, and the level of productivity that we're after may seem overwhelming. But if we can kind of picture it in a way and visualize what's happening in our body and accept that as something positive, then that gets us off on the right foot. Number 2, she says, see the situation you're facing as something you can handle versus something you can't. And this gets back to what we're telling ourselves as well. Sometimes if I say, man, I can't do this, I can't handle my life, I just can't cope with all this. If we constantly are rehearsing and repeating those kinds of statements, then by golly, that's exactly what happens. If we keep saying, I'm so stressed, then we will be. If we keep saying, I can't handle this, then maybe we won't handle it. It's almost like we speak into existence that which has the greatest propensity to happen. So we can, and it doesn't mean, on the other hand, if we can just start saying things like, I'm not stressed, that's ridiculous. Just because I say I'm not stressed doesn't mean I'm not stressed. We have to have cognitive congruence. We have to say what we really believe. So what we might say, Lord, for me, I would be dialoguing with the Lord. Lord, I have so much to do. I'm going to roll this to you. Your word says that the burden, that the yoke that I have is easy and light. Okay, can you teach me today what that means? I want to move in the direction that you're leading. Spirit, guide me in these things. Increase my awareness. We can begin to say those types of things, which are truth-filled messages from the Bible, privileges that we have as Christians that we can step into. And that has a whole different feel to it than, oh my gosh, I'll never do this day. I can't do this. I can't do this. That sort of thing. That takes us in an entirely wrong direction. So if we come at it as Dr. Leaf is suggesting and thinking, wait a minute, we can handle this. We've done it before. We can do it again. And God's word says that with his help, I can scale a wall even. So I'm going to go with God on this one. Number 3, she says, each time you feel yourself teetering on the brink of toxic stress, speak with your friends or family, even if it's just a phone call to get that perspective. So sometimes we just need to call in the troops. We need external help. We need support. We need maybe someone to speak an encouraging word over us, or maybe to see just how much we have done. Sometimes when we're wrapped up in difficult situations, that's all we see. And it's hard to see the label when we're inside the jar, so to speak. So it's so nice to have someone else say, hey, Victoria, hey, Martha, hey, Jace, this isn't quite what you may think. These are the strides you've made. This is the progress that I've seen in your lives, in your family, with your business. I've seen this. So give yourself a little bit of credit. You're doing a great job. Something like that can really, really help. She also, number 4, encourages us to write down the benefits of having a healthy reaction to stress, and to read that often so that we'll know, that, okay, my blood vessels expand. I've got more blood and oxygen. I can think with more clarity and focus when I'm stressed. So that helps us to remember that we have a powerful mind, and that our mind impacts our brain literally. Our brain is moldable or neuroplastic, and the thoughts we have directly impact our gray matter. They matter. Our thoughts matter. And the last suggestion she has is that when you face a challenge, tell yourself how good stress can be for you. And again, she kind of reiterates this over really 3 of these points, but remind yourself of all the positive benefits that it can have on your body. And so, that's what she's suggesting that would help us to develop a mindset of healthy stress. That means that, I look at mindsets almost like a coat or a cloak that we can put on. It's the overarching protection that we have to get through our day. So if I'm wearing this healthy stress mindset, maybe it's going to really help me in the day-to-day of it all when I'm deep in the trenches, trying to do all that I do and serve all that I serve and so forth. It's that blanket that brings warmth and comfort to me when I face stress in an otherwise healthy fashion. So as we close out, Martha, I'd love to know if you have any other comments or want to chime in a little bit more about what you've just, what I've just read.
I think all of this is amazing. I had a couple of questions for you. First, do you have like a list of scripture affirmations that you use for your positive mindset that you share, or that's on your website or something?
I do. I've got so many landing pages over there, Martha, and all you have to do is opt in. It's victoriadwalker.com. That is my website. And once you're in, you can look through, I'm going to say at least a dozen different printables. They're just PDFs, and I have an infographic there. I have the Ultimate Guide to Gratitude, or Gratitude Guide, which is like 37 pages of just, because we could also talk about the mindset of gratitude. That's coming at some point. But anyway, gratitude was pivotal in my own personal experience, which is why I spent a lot of time on that particular mindset. But it's all free and available for you. And of course, I'd love to have you tune into the podcast as well. It's called Choose to Think. It's the name of, with the number 2, it's the name of this. You'll see it up top of this room even. So but yeah, that would be awesome. I would love to have you on the list there.
Thank you. And I have one more question. Mm-hmm. I have found, and the reason, and I don't know if this is even proper, I list it as PTSD, but when I start I think to get stressed, even like, okay, I'm going to go clean the house. I'm really working. It doesn't even have to be stress, but I'm just doing something at a good pace or to get something done. It's like it drains me. It's a mental stress. And the only thing that I've come up with is the breathing. Is there anything else that you can have advice to as to how to counter that? It's just in every day when I start doing anything that's actually productive. Does that make sense? That I'm not relaxing, that adrenaline or cortisol or something rises up, and there's not even a major stressor there.
Okay, let me just make sure I understand the question too. So, for example, if let's say you were going to go wash the dishes, and so it would be in something like that, like just a household chore that you would start walking into the kitchen, and then it would start rising up in you, or you would just kind of feel like, oh, that antsy kind of feeling. Is that what you're meaning?
Well, one of the things I find myself doing is once I start any task, I start gritting my teeth, clenching my teeth, I'll bite my lip. It's like I put all this physical bodily stress comes up when I'm just trying to be productive, or, when you're almost putting a lot of effort or mental, okay, I'm going to get this done, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be whatever. And it can be something negative that you have to do, but it can be just, housework where I'm really working at something at a good pace to try to, I need to get it done in a certain amount of time, or those kind of things.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm trying to picture myself even doing that. Sometimes I'm maybe more in a hurry than others, and it seems like I have an intensity of that on, with that particular task. And you mentioned breathing. I think that would be an excellent thing, just to, once you notice that your body is responding in that way, to just slow down and take a few deep breaths. And they call that like the 4-corner breathing, and just kind of regroup. And it would be curious to me to know maybe what it is that you're thinking at those moments that may be, fueling that a little bit. Another thing that I do often when I'm doing like cutting the grass or working around the house is I have worship music going on in the background, praise and worship music. So that kind of keeps my mind engaged in that way, and kind of puts life into the scenario, into the atmosphere for me, and it's puts a little lighthearted flair to things. So I don't know if that might be something, maybe your favorite music. It could be upbeat, or it could be slower maybe, but I guess I would it would be, for me, I would probably, if I felt that, for example, if I'm driving down the road and I'm going to an appointment and suddenly I notice I'm really gripping the steering wheel, or I'm just like feeling like my face is all crunching up, and I'm like, okay, what's going on with me? What am I thinking about? I always ask myself that question, Martha, but that's because that's, again, a part of my ministry, because I have found that it is my thoughts that produce the feelings or the emotions, which in turn produce my actions. And they're the thoughts we have and the feelings that we have, the physiological connection there is just razor sharp and fast. So sometimes it's hard to disengage or figure out, to dissect those is what I'm trying to say, because they can happen almost simultaneously. But I would probably have to really think about what I was thinking about, because I have found personally, and I'm just speaking from my own personal experience, my thoughts definitely impact my mood, my body, the way I'm feeling, my emotions, and my body responds to emotions and feelings. So that's what I would do. Jace, do you have any ideas coming from the sports background there? Any thoughts on that? The question is like, do any of your athletes ever, let's say once the game starts, once they're now playing ball or whatever, do they ever find themselves anxious during that task, or as they're playing, and have a heightened sense of maybe they're biting their lips, or clenching their teeth or something like that during play? Does that ever happen? And how would you counsel them on hey, step back and just enjoy this, or step back and, let's redo this. Let's not get caught up in that. What would you say to that?
So there's a lot of stuff that goes in, like, that you see during gameplay, or like especially in racing. So my background in particular is like the mile race. That's kind of my specialty. What I am really good at, coaching people in, and as well as what I was excelled in. And if you think of it as like a mile race, is anytime that you start thinking about things that are outside of your race, your performance starts to fade, for one thing. Then the second thing is, anytime you start thinking about the finish before you're finished, your performance starts to fade. So what I coach people on is to stay in the moment of the race. You have your plan, then you make your plan beforehand, and then you stay in the moment of that plan during the race. You don't think about what happened before. You don't think about what happened or what could happen in the future. And I think that can relate a lot back to life, where you're not trying to think about what's going to happen with your child, or your business, or something down the road. You're staying in the moment with them right there.
Yeah, I love that. Martha, did that help you too? Because I'm thinking you may be thinking about, what do you do after you do the dishes, and how many other things that you have to do, and maybe you're hurrying through, and your body's responding because you want to get this done so you can go to that. Does that resonate a little bit, or encourage you to, as you're doing those things, maybe just to disregard what's coming next? Would that help?
Yes, I was going to say both of you had some really good points. I like obviously what you're thinking about. When I find myself doing this, what am I thinking about? And I like the worship music. A lot of times I do counter it with a podcast or something that gets my mind on something else. So I do that, but that still kind of keeps you keyed up, or focused. I don't know. But I like the worship music. And then with Jace, staying in the moment, and also to take, when I feel that anxiety, reframe that into something positive, to get what I'm getting done. And you said that too, reframe that to, it's a good thing. It's an excitement. It's helping me, not hurting me. So I think all those things, if I can work on those and remember those, that'll be really helpful.
I want to close out also asking both you, Martha and Jace, how can we best support you in your businesses, or if you have, some sort of group or page, or anything we can do to support you in your business. I so appreciate your taking time out of your day to come in and just have a mastermind on this issue of the healthy stress mindset, because I know, Martha, that your candid response and questions, it's going to help my listeners so much, and they're going to relate so much to what you shared. And I really, truly appreciate that you took time out of your day to step in here and share that, because this is life, and we need each other, and we go through stuff. And so it's so nice to be able to just encourage, and somebody else is going to hear that, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm the same way. That's exactly what I do. So hopefully some of this discussion will spur folks on and help them feel validated, and then encouraged and inspired in their daily walk as well. So Martha, let's start with you, and then I'll go to you, Jace. Is there any way that we can support you, my listeners, and me?
I just think right now that the positive mindsets can help my team and my people, and I'm going to share your podcast and everything with them. I think that will help any positive mindset. And I really feel like my personal stress and things that I have been going with is hurting my business, and it's definitely taking a lot of the energy away. And if you're sharing something, a business, I'm in health and wellness, if I can't be as positive and bring to you that side if I'm depleted on the other side from my personal issues. So I'm going to be working on that so I can bring more energy into my business, and I think that'll be helpful. And everything you said today was very helpful. And Jace, too, I really appreciate your point also.
If you like kind of the sports side of things, I do have a podcast called The Science of Sports Recovery, which we talk about, how to keep a healthy body and healthy mind in athletics throughout your career. And then if anybody hosts a podcast, has a podcast, wants anything done with that, we do everything from, getting guests for them to promoting them on other shows to editing to all that kind of stuff. And they can find me there at perfectmypodcast.com.
So God bless you both. Thank you for tuning in, and let's all three of us just decide that we are going to adopt and put on that healthy stress mindset. Even when we're pinched and just feel like we can't, we're going to switch it around and remember God's truth. So God bless you all. Thank you for coming. And that's a wrap, Brain Changer. Thank you so much for tuning in. And say, if you like what you hear, please consider sharing this link to the show with a friend or a family member who you think might be encouraged by the inspiring and hope-filled messages that I try to put out every single week. So thank you so much for your support. And until next time, Dios primero y que Dios te bendiga. Ciao.